What if I told you from the time it takes to boil your pasta, you can make an amazing marinara sauce from scratch that tastes better than the store-bought stuff? Well, buckle up because I'm gonna teach you how to do it, and in the end, we're gonna make a beautiful, rich pasta. The 3 goals for this recipe are as followed. Our sauce has to be made in less than 15 minutes, which is around the same time it takes to cook pasta. Our sauce has to be cheaper than the store-bought version. And lastly, it has to taste better than the store-bought version, because what's the point of cooking at home if it's not gonna taste better? So follow along and let's get to cooking. Now let's first get to work on boiling our pasta. In a small pot, you'll pour in around 2 cups of water, giving it a strong pinch of salt and leaving it on high heat until we hit a rapid boil. While we wait for it to boil though, let's get to work on our sauce. You'll grab 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes, preferably San Marzano because they just taste better. Pour that can into a high-sided container along with 1 shallot roughly chopped, which to chop, you'll cut the tip and the root off, followed by splitting it in half and then peeling off the outside layer. Then roughly dice it into large chunks like so, and that's it. Toss it into your high-sided container along with 20 grams of sugar, 15 grams of salt, and 2 grams or 1 teaspoon of fresh basil. I can only find this pre-chopped stuff, but you could just tear up the basil leaves with your hand and toss it in there. Now grab your immersion blender, and if you don't have one of these, no worries. You can easily use a regular blender or a food processor as well. I'm gonna stick my immersion blender in, making sure to blend all of those shallots, tomatoes, and basil bits very thoroughly. Once blended, you now have a bright, acidic, raw tomato sauce. And now it's time to check on our boiling water. It's been about 5 minutes and our water has hit a boil. I'm gonna grab our pasta, which in this case, we're using a nice penne. And as you can see, it says it'll take around 10 to 12 minutes to boil. So that's the time we have left to finish our sauce. I'm gonna pour in 2.5 cups worth of dried pasta into our boiling water, and I'll set an alarm for 10 minutes. Now, before we can get into the next step, I would like to ask you guys to please hit the like button if you are enjoying this video. It makes a huge difference in supporting this small but mighty channel. Any support you guys can provide would be greatly appreciated. Now let's get back to cooking. I'll next grab a pot, setting it to medium-high heat, and I'll grab 3 cloves of garlic. To prep this garlic, I'm gonna aggressively smash each of the cloves with my knife and then give it a rough mincing. This was super quick and took about 30 seconds. Back to our pot, I'll pour in 1 tablespoon of olive oil as well as 1 tablespoon of butter and our crushed garlic. Cook the garlic for 30 seconds to a minute. You just want it to get nice and fragrant, and then pour in all of our tomato mixture. Set the heat to high and then partially cover your pot with a lid and let it reduce for 7 minutes. Make sure to scrape and mix it periodically, but after 7 minutes, you should have a slightly reduced marinara sauce. To finish, I'll pour in 1 teaspoon of dried oregano and half a teaspoon of chili flakes, depending your spice tolerance. Mix it thoroughly, and that's it. Pour that sucker into a food-safe container, and now you have a homemade marinara sauce. Now, before we can compare the 2 sauces together, let's quickly put together our pasta. Once it's fully boiled and cooked to al dente, I'll pour our pasta into a strainer and then hit it with a little bit of cold water to stop the cooking. I'm going to toss it back into the same pot as before and throw in 3.5 tablespoons of our homemade marinara, followed by a little bit of freshly grated Parmesan cheese and a nice pinch of chopped parsley. Give it a thorough mixing together and then pour that into a bowl, hitting it with some more fresh Parmesan, chopped parsley, and freshly ground black pepper, and we're done. You have a simple yet amazing bowl of pasta that has a homemade marinara sauce in it. Now let's see which marinara sauce tasted better. And it's important to note that the store-bought version that we're going up against is Carbone, which I think is currently the best store-bought store-bought marinara sauce you could get. Back in the day, Rao used to be in the #1 leader spot, but they changed their recipe and now Carbone, I believe, is firmly in first place. But let's get back to our 3 goals. In terms of making the pasta in less than 15 minutes, we crushed it. This marinara sauce took me around 13 minutes to make, give or take. But now in terms of price, the store-bought Carbone version costs $9.79. And for our version, when you add up all the ingredients, the total price comes around to $8.61, which means ours is cheaper by $1.18. So in terms of price, ours is way better. But now let's get into the most important factor, which is taste. I compared the 2 sauces by myself, and I had my girlfriend do a blind tasting as well, and we both agreed that mine tasted way better. The store-bought Carbone version is good, but compared to our homemade version, which has home peeled tomatoes in it, there's just a freshness that you can't beat. Plus, the herbs we use complements the flavors perfectly, giving a nice little punch to your taste buds. So in the 15 minutes it takes to boil and cook your pasta, we made a homemade marinara sauce in that time that costs less than the top brand store-bought marinara sauce, and it tastes better than the store-bought marinara sauce as well. If that's not an absolute win, I don't know what is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'd appreciate any support you guys can provide. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.